We are on Daf Lamed Zayin in Sukkah. We're in the middle of a raya. The Gemara said that Rabbi Yehuda holds that you need to be ma'agi, you need a type of lulav with minay, something of the dalad minam. Rabbi Rava said that you can even use ikra de dikla and sieve, the stuff that grows around the tree or the trunk of the tree, you can use as to tie up your lulav. And we're trying to bring a raya that, or how did Rava know that? Yehuda holds that that's considered that's considered minay. So the Gemara brought a halacha that Rabbi Yehuda made a kal v'chomer to say that your schach, your sukkah needs to be made out of the dalad minam. And the Chum argued on that. The Gemara brought a pasuk also that seemed to say that you can use anything for your sukkah, because Ezra says, "Tzu'u tabalam zayin amrav, tzu'u harvevu ali zayis." Bring ali zayis, olive wood, vali et shemen, vali hadas, vali tamarim, vali et avos, vasu sukkos. So Rabbi Yehuda Savar handled the funnis, and ali hadas, meaning when you bring the olive wood, that was to make walls, but the ali hadas, ali tamarim, which is a lulav, but ali it's avos, that's l'schach. You're allowed to use boards. Who says you can use boards? Well, how are you going to make a board out of a lulav? Must be almasiv v'ikra dikla is considered mina de lulav shma mina. The reason why I'm allowed to, how am I going to be using a lulav or ali tamarim to make a sukkah, or to make a board for the schach? The answer is that I'm using the ikra de dikla. I'm using the trunk of the tree, and I make it into board. So you see that Rabbi Yehuda considers sivin ikra de dikla mina de lulava. In fact, the Gemara Rabbi Yehuda arbos minim in midiyachrin light. Does Rabbi Yehuda really hold you only can use the arba minim? You can't use something else for schach. V'atani sacha ben nesam shel erez mefurish. The Bryce is saying that if you use schach of erez, which is a cheres cedar, sheish ben dalad tvachim, the very called apostle, ein ben dalad tvachim, Reb Meir paisa Yehuda machshir. Why did Reb Meir shem yesh ben nesel anasa b'kamal nesel shem enech b'esel ben evam kshera? Point being, from this Bryce, Reb Yehuda clearly says you're using a nesel, a board of erez, and it's still kosher. So my answer is my erez hadas. What kind of wood is erez wood? So the Gemara says it could be hadas as well, because the Rabbi Rav Huna, Amri Bei Rav, Asara Mine Arazamen. There are 10 types of erez wood. Erez is a name of wood that has many different types to it. And one of those types is hadas. Shnemer, Etim Bamidbar erez, Shita, the hadas, the Gemara lists off another 5. So the way the Rabbi Rav Huna learns this pasuk is that the pasuk is saying, I will put in the desert a cedar, and then it's naming all the different types of cedar. So hadas is a type of cedar, therefore you could use the hadas as nesarim. Now, the only issue I had with that is that I don't know how you make a board out of did it say mesach? It's a nesarim, boards out of erez. Which part of the erez had hadassim or bushes? So I'm not sure how you're making boards out of that one. Okay, Zak the Gemara weiter. Reb Meir Emer Afil v'Mishcha. Reb Meir said that you don't need to use minay. That's only according to Reb Yehuda. But Reb Meir says you can use anything to tie up your esrog. Tanya, the Brisa says, I'm Reb Meir. Ma'isa b'Yakira Yerushalayim. Our Mishnah said it was Anchi Yerushalayim. The Brisa says that it was Yakira Yerushalayim. Rashi says it was Nechbada Yerushalayim, the honorable of Yerushalayim, Hashim, the wealthy Jerusalemites. Sheyu Oigdim Esuluvein they would type to love him with strands of gold. And they answered back to me, that's a raya. Underneath the gold, it was tied up with mina. Now, Rabbi would tell those who would tie up the lulavim of the Reish Kalusa. Rashi says megadli doesn't mean to grow. It means anytime you're in a profession of doing something, you're called the megadli. So the megadli yeshan are those that tied up the lulavim of the Reish Kalusa. He said ki gedalisai haishan the Reish Kalusa. When you tie up the haishan of the Reish Kalusa, shiyari ba base yad, leave a place to hold on to ki hechidalei tehevi chatzitza. He said, being that we don't hold like Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore lulav ain't tzarech eged, you don't need to tie up your lulav. The eged is not part of the mitzvah, so therefore you under the place where you tied it up, I want to be able to hold on to it in order that there isn't a chatzitza between where I'm holding on to the lulav and to the rest of the there can't be on my hand. I have to hold it, so I can't have a chatzitza between my hand and the lulav. Therefore, if you're tying it up and I don't need to tie it, so that could be a chatzitza. That is what Rabbah told the Megadli Rishana. And to that, Rava responded, Kol la'oisei ein chatzitz. Anything that's there to make something nicer is not considered a chatzitza. Being that you're tying it, even though it's not a mitzvah, but you're doing it to make it nicer, noi is going to be bottle to the item itself. That's not going to be considered a chatzitza because it's not an independent object. It's there to beautify the lulav. If it's there to beautify the lulav, it's serving the lulav, and therefore it is bottle to the lulav, and it won't be considered a chatzitza. And a similar idea. Rabbi would say you should not hold your lulav with a handkerchief. Let's say you had one of those, you had a nice a scarf, and then you wanted to hold your lulav with a scarf because I don't know, you don't want to get, I don't know why. So you shouldn't hold the lulav. You shouldn't wrap the scarf around your hand and then take the lulav because that would again be a chatzitza. And then you need lakicha tama, which means that you need to be holding completely onto your lulav. You wouldn't have the Rava Amar lakicha de'avracha shma lakicha. Holding onto something through something else is still called a lakicha. Right? Example would be is using a fork. If you needed to, is that an extension of your hand, or is that something else? That's lakicha de'avracha maybe, or for sure wearing gloves. If you needed to hold, if there's a mitzvah to take something and you're wearing gloves, is that called you're taking it through the glove, or does that mean your hand you're taking it with gloves on? So Rava holds that lakicha al davar acher is shmo lakicha. So Amar Rava, mina min late. How do I know the lakicha davar acher shmo lakicha? So I bring two sources. Ditnan. The Mishnah says, referring to when you're sprinkling the para aduma ashes on somebody, so they would carry the water in a tube, and then you would take the aziv and you would dip it into the tube and then sprinkle it. Now, what happens if your aziv was too short? So the Mishnah says, aziv kutzer, if your aziv, your hyssop, your bundle was too short, misapkai bechut, you should extend it with a string, ubakush, or with a spindle. The toivel, and then so you're going to attach, you're going to extend the aziv with something else, then dip that in and then take it out with the string. So that's the lakicha de lavracher. Then you have to hold on to the aziv and then you sprinkle it. The reason why you need to hold on to the aziv, then Rashi says, is because you need to make sure you get it, you direct it well. If you're using something else, you have a string and you're going to start swinging it around, then you may not do a good job sprinkling the ash. Why are you allowed to extend the aziv with a string? The says you have to take the aziv in your hand and then be tavel it. So how are you taking it? Extending something or taking it through something else is considered lakicha. Why is that a good raya? There it's different because you actually attached it to the aziv. You tied it around the aziv. Maybe that's why that's considered a lakicha. But in the case where the suda, where you wrapped it around your hand, maybe that's not considered a lakicha because it's not attached. So now it brings another raya. Nafal, the halach is that you have to put the ashes into the mayim chayim when you're making the ashes of the paraduma. So first you put your water into a kli, and then you put the ashes on top of that, and then you mix it around. What happens if you didn't put it in, but it fell in, the ashes fell into the water? Nafal mishashafeferis l'shekas. Shekas is the kli that the water is in, and it fell from the shafeferis where the ashes were in, and it fell into the shekas. That's going to be puzzle because you need to do it yourself. Ha hipilu, but if you poured it in, kosher, that would be okay. So that's like using like a salt shaker or something, and you're pouring it in from again your ashes are in the shefer, in this shefeferis, um, and you're pouring that into the shakers that has the water in it. But I didn't take the ashes out with my hand. I poured it directly from the shefay feres. So hapilu kosher. If you poured it in, it would be kosher. The Torah says you have to take it, the ashes, and put it onto the water. I didn't take it. I'm holding it in a shaker. So you see, lokicha devrach is considered taking it, and therefore Rava says wrapping a scarf around your hand, and taking lulav would be okay. That's called lokicha devrach. That would be okay. Another scenario, a similar thing. Avam Rabba, loy ladutz inish love b'shana. So let's say you tied up your hadassim and haravis, and now I'm going to stick my lulav into that bundle. So it says, don't do that. Loy ladutz inish lulav b'shana. The dilma natri tarpi. Maybe you're going to loosen some leaves. V'avichatzitza, and nachma you'll have a chatzitza. Rava again says not an issue. Right? That's it sounds like you don't have to be concerned. You should be concerned that you're taking when you're putting your taking in and out your hadassim and ravis into the kushachlach. So then first, if you're going to stick them in that, you may take off some leaves. So it'll be kosher, but if you spend so much money on your ravis and hadassim, you might not take off the leaves. But it wouldn't be a chatzitza because mimba mine lebato. Agav, the way you're supposed to do that, it's like those Chinese locks. If you smash if you squish the kushachlach, it makes it wider, and then you could take it out without an issue. Okay, but Amarabba, another scenario like this, hadas shel mitzvah. If you have your hadassim, I think I skipped one. Yeah, Amarabba, liga is inish lulav b'shana. You shouldn't shorten your lulav while it's in the hishana. So let's say your lulav is very long and you want to shorten it, so you can cut off from the bottom. Now, assuming that that only some of the leaves come off, but not all of the leaves, so it's still a kosher lulav, but you're going to have some leaves now that are detached from your lulav. So maybe so Rabbi says that's going to be a chatzitza. You're going to have leaves that have become detached out of the chatzitza. Okay, another scenario, another shalakavatari here between Rabba and Rav. V'amar Rabba, hadas shel mitzvah asr lahariach bay. No, this is just a memory of Rabba. A hadas shel mitzvah, the hadas you're using for your lulav, asr lahariach bay, you're not allowed to smell it. Esrog shel mitzvah mutul lahariach bay, but in esrog you are allowed to smell. Now, my timer, what's the reason for this differentiation? Hadas hadas, which is meant to smell. I mean, the main usage of the hadas is for fragrance. So ki akse meirecha akse. So now, when you designate this for the mitzvah, its main usage is smell. So you're saying that this item which is used for smelling, I'm using for a mitzvah. So now it becomes huktzah for the mitzvah, and you can't use it for its regular usage, which is smelling. As the Gemara, Rashi says that who says it becomes huktzah at all? The Gemara's darshans, like remember we learned a sukkah becomes huktzah l'mitzvasei when you designate your sukkah for sukkahs, so it's chal shal shem shemayim alav for 7 days. So the same thing becomes for your lulav and esrog and hadassim and aravis become huktzah l'mitzvah, and therefore you can't use it for its designated shimush. So for a hadas, that's smelling. But an esrog is not meant for smelling. A main usage of an esrog is la'achilaka. It's meant for eating. So therefore, ki atzi ma'achila akse, when you designate it for and set it aside for the mitzvah, its main usage is eating, which you can't do. So you can't eat the esrog, but you'd be allowed to smell it. V'amar Rabba, another statement of Rabba. Now, this being that we mentioned this differentiation between eating and smelling, so we say another differentiation, but this is talking about Hilchos Shabbos. V'amar Rabba, hadas b'mechuber mutter lahariach bay. A hadas which is attached to the ground, you can go over and smell it on Shabbos. But an esrog b'mechuber asur lahariach bay. But an esrog which is attached to the ground, you're not allowed to smell it on Shabbos. My time. Hadas, the lahariach kai, hadas, which is meant to smell. So isharis, if we permit you to smell it, so there's no need for you to cut it off because you could smell it as is. But in esrog, the lachilaka, an esrog which is meant for eating, isharis, if you permit you to smell it, then asil migzay, because then you're going to want to eat it and you're going to end up cutting it off to eat. Ba'amar Rabba, a lulav biyamin, another member of Rabba. Lulav, the lulav goes, which includes the lulav hadassah and rav, goes in your right hand. The esrog was small. My time, what's the reason? Because hani klasa mitzvahs v'haichad mitzvah. This is 3 parts of the mitzvah, and this is 1 part of the mitzvah. So therefore, you put the lulav in your right hand, which is more chashav, and the esrog in your left. I want to be yirmiyah, zrika, but my tam lemeverchinan ella al dilas lulav. Why is it that we only make a bracha on tilas lulav? Why don't we mention the esrog as well? Says the Gemara, since the lulav is the tallest, it's the most chashiv, and therefore it gets to the bracha. So why don't you raise up the esrog, the livrach? Now that sounds a little bit funny because we also said that it has 3 minim in it. Now that's what gives it chashiva. So it's not just the fact that it's taller. So the Gemara's kasha is really predicated on the fact that esrog is first in the pasuk. And therefore the bracha should go on the esrog, just like by the shivas haminim, the min which is mentioned first gets the bracha on it. So esrog, which is mentioned first, should get the bracha on it as well. So the Gemara said, yeah, but the lulav is more chashiv because it's taller. Okay, so now just pick up your esrog and that'll be the higher one, and if I can make a bracha on the esrog. We don't just mean that it's higher in the bundle, but it's the tallest of all of them. It grows the tallest. Esrogim trees are don't grow very high. Hadassim are bushes, and the ravas are also not too high. But a tamarim, a date tree, they go very high. So in the min of the lulav is the highest, and therefore the bracha goes. That gives it a chashivas, and therefore the bracha goes on that. Where would you shake your lulav? Where do you shake? So it says, the beginning and end of Haidu. Tchila v'seif means of the parak. That's 1 parak in Tehillim. It begins Haidu Lashem Kitayv, and then it ends at the end of with Haidu Lashem. After the Mina Meitzar and Oidcha, and again says Haidu. That's all 1 kapitel. So by Haidu in the beginning of the kapitel and the end of the kapitel, and Ba'ana Hashem Mashiach, you also Divrei Beisel. You would also shake a little by Anasha Matzlichana. Amr Rabbi Akiva, Seifa Hayisi Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Akiva says, I would look at Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Shua. Shekol Amay Menanin es Lulaveim. I saw that they would all, everybody was busy shaking the lulav. Veim Lenanu, and they wouldn't shake El Ba'anasha Mashiach. We'll come back to that, Machlekes. Let's talk about the Nanu. First of all, Nanu at Mantakashmei. The Mishnah asks, where do you do Nenuim? Well, first tell me that you do Nanuim, and then you can ask him, where do you do it? So the Nanuim Mandakar Shmei says, it's going back to the Mishnah, the beginning of the parak. The Mishnah gave the shir for lulav, and it said, Kol sheish bei shlesh tvachim kedei l'nanei bay. Oh, so you see the lulav needs to be an extra tefach to be menanei. Now, in fact, the Gemara, v'kamer hechem menanen. So where do you shake those lulav? The Gemara, okay. We're going to the Mishnah. So there was a ketzad who oisa. There's a mitzvah of hanafa, of waving the shtei alechem with the kivsei atzeres. So how would you do that? So it says meniach shtei alechem al gabi shnei kvasim. You would put the loaves on top of the kvasim. Umeniach yadei tachtein, and then you would put your hand underneath them. Umeinif umeilach. Umeinif, wave them. Umeilach. Umevi, Mala, Umayrid. Mailach is forward, Mevi is back, and then Mala, Umayrid, up and down. Shenemar Asher Hunaf, Asher Huram. Hunaf means to wave, which means in forward and backwards, and Huram means to go up, and if it goes up, it must come down. The idea here is you're saying that I'm doing this mitzvah l'shma. I'm doing this for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I'm to the one who the four directions the world belong to him. And Ma'al Umayr, I go up and down to the one who the Shemayim v'Aretz belong to. In Ma'arav and Masu, they taught it differently. You would go forward and backward to stop the rough winds, and Ma'al Umayr to stop the rough dews. Look at what you see from here, says the Gemara. Shiori mitzvah tabal amachasam nalv ma'ak ben asapronius. Shiori mitzvah is the side points of the mitzvah. They stop perennius. Shori tenufa shiori mitzvah. It's only waving it is it's secondary to the mitzvah because it's not even ma'ak of kapara. If you didn't do it, you're supposed to do it. But if you didn't do it, you still get a kapara. You don't have to bring out the carbon again. And look at the Vaitzeres Ruchais V'Talamra. Look what the effect it has. Amarav V'Chein Lulav. You similarly do the same type of a waving when it comes to the lulav. If Achbar Yaakov Matile Umaisile, he would go forward and backward. And Amar Dengira Be'ina de Sitna. This is an arrow. You like point. You use the lulav to poke the satan in the eyes. Gira Be'ina de Sitna. The Gemara says it's not a good idea. You don't want you don't want to be magara. You don't want to arouse the satan or the yitzhara, because if you're going to nashasr him, then he might come after you. So take it easy. All right. Have a wonderful Shabbos, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Sunday.